VO, it's off to camp we go. La 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 to camp. VO, it's off to camp we go. La 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 to camp. VO.
Hey!
Oh, I love camp!
VO.
Attention campers, you're about to see a fun interview with the amazing Tom Kane, the voice of Yoda and tons of other famous characters in the movies and on TV and games. Please, though, be patient through a couple of very brief lags in the video due to a mildly weak internet signal, because I caught up to Tom while he was visiting his mom in Kansas City. And even though it's not Source Connect, his fabulous message and stories come through loud and clear. Here we go. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the great Tom Kane. Tom, how are you?
Good, great. I usually settle for adequate.
Adequate? Well, I listened to you on the radio when you sent me that. You said I'll be on the radio doing the talk show. And I listened to that whole thing while I was working. I felt like, no, I don't even need to talk to you. I know all about you.
Oh, we're good.
But we're going to be talking about CampVO. You're going to be the keynote speaker to 150 busy voice actors that are going to want to hear every word you have to say. But
no, we're good.
Just a little bit of business. CampVO, April 30th.
Oh, I just noticed that. Oh, very
May the
cool.
voice be with you.
April 30th through, that was a bad Yoda imitation, sorry.
It wasn't that bad. I get nervous sometimes.
So it's going to be April 30th to May 3rd in Livingston, Texas. And it's a really exciting conference because it's different and it's small, it's intimate, and it's a one price, buys you everything. So everything that's going to happen from training to meals to everything is included, including your lodging. And
so if it was a cruise ship, it'd be an all-inclusive, but without the coronavirus.
Without the coronavirus, we hope. And if you see people walking around like
yes,
you're going to know where they were the week before.
I'm like, is this cosplay or what? I don't know what you're doing.
But I'm really excited. I'm going to be there, and we have a whole slew of trainers and camp counselors and table talkers that are going to be talking to people during meals. But I really want to talk about what it is that I listen to a whole bunch of the stuff that you do, and we're in for a treat to hear you.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll try to perform up to expectations.
Well, you just moved too, right? Didn't you just move to LA?
Yeah. We lived here for 20 some years.
Here being
LA. Sorry, yes, LA. No, on this iPad. We lived in this iPad for 20. But all of our family was back in the Kansas City area, and the kids didn't get to see grandmas and grandpas that much. So we, at that point, I was already very established as far as using ISDN lines. I was told I was actually the second guy that had them.
Oh, ever
in LA. I mean, there were some radio stations, of course, that had it, but I was told I was only the second person that got their own box. The first was, I believe, Joe Cipriano, who was doing promos for Fox.
Yeah.
And, if you've ever gotten involved in promos for the networks, you can't go anywhere.
Right.
And he desperately wanted to just take a vacation to Hawaii. So we actually bought the thing, sent it ahead, had somebody wire it up in a hotel room so he could go to one. And back then, there wasn't ISDN. It was called Switched 56 because it didn't work at 64K. It only worked at 56K, which, again, I don't understand the difference, but so it was switched to 56 and then it became ISDN. But everybody had the boxes had to send them back in and have a new prom or something installed on the board.
Well, it's a whole different world now, right? And we're all living in this instantaneous thing. How many, like, you're the voice of Yoda, and I don't know if you want to give us a quick Yoda for a second, just so
the Jedi Master you have found, or at least his voice. Yes, just be my messiahs, do you?
And of course, I tell people I'm Yoda 2.0. Obviously, I mean,
right.
I was 13 when Frank did it originally, but yeah, I mean, I get a disturbing amount of work filling in for either retired people or dead people. So,
Yeah, and I heard the great story you told about how you got involved with doing your fabulous Morgan Freeman.
oh yeah. Yeah, that was just an accident. I was originally the audition was it was for ESPN, and they said sort of the description was, imagine this is some guy on a stool in a smoky jazz club back in the 50s, and he's got a cigarette in his hand and a mic, and he's just telling stories, and I was, oh, okay, it's cool. Well, I grew up in Kansas City. Well, jazz clubs here, the vast majority of anybody that set foot in a jazz club that would be on stage were black. They're old black guys. And so I thought, well, I'll give them both. So I did a white version of the promos, and then I did an African American dialect version, because in my head that's what I saw and heard. And I get booked, and it was weeks later. I didn't think anything of it, and I show up for the session down in Santa Monica. I walk in, and there's, oh my gosh, must have been a dozen people there from ESPN and the ad agency and the engineers, and they're all in the middle of some heated discussion. I'm just standing there, until someone looks up and goes, "Can I help you?" And I'm like, yeah, I'm here for a recording session. They're like, what? I'm like, I'm Tom Kane. And it was like you heard the record scratch, and everybody stops and they look, and they're all looking at me. And I went, you like to take number 2. Yeah. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. I said, to me, it's all just character voices. So, yeah. But if I totally get it. If that's uncomfortable, I'll just call my agent and say that, explain what happened, and you can hire somebody else. And they were like, no, you don't understand. We have to upload this. You can't imagine. We have to upload it to the satellite. This is a few years ago. They're like, we have to upload this thing in 3 hours. Oh. And I went, oh. So they're like, well, let's just record it. I'll do it both ways, and you guys can decide what you want. So we did, and then I went on to do the take 2 version, which was much better. And I got to the end of the first take, and the engineer, hits the talk back, and he goes, God, you sound like Morgan Freeman. And I went, what? I was like, I don't sound like Morgan Freeman. And he's like, yeah, you do. I said, play it back. And I got about 3 sentences, and I'm like, damn, I sound like Morgan Freeman. So,
well, the story that you told was about how you had done a stand-in or a scratch read.
Oh, yes.
And that Morgan Freeman came into the studio. Here I am telling you the story.
This was a number of years later, because it got known in the industry out here that this guy can do a pretty good Morgan Freeman. So I was getting hired to do stuff, and again I only do things for his projects.
Sure.
I don't need to get a lawyer letter for a $400 radio spot.
You're a stand-in voice.
Yeah, and and that happens. I get, honestly, between my agents and my managers, they get asked. I've been told 3 to 5 times a week that, we'd want to hire Tom to do our $300 bank spot in Des Moines, and we want him to do Morgan Freeman. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do that, for $300, because that's about the hourly rate for the lawyer I'd have to hire.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, but I was doing all of Morgan's Visa commercials for years. For all the tie-ins they had, the sports and the Olympics, and they would just use those for focus grouping and testing and audience reaction and edit is everything you would use a scratch track for. And one day, he'd show up, but they never told him. They never said that there's some other guy doing scratches, because they didn't know how he'd react. I don't know why they thought he'd be upset about it, because he's not a difficult human being from what I could tell.
Sure.
But they just thought maybe he'd react badly to it, that someone else was doing his stuff. But so they never said anything, and it was like, don't anybody talk about it. And I didn't know any of this. I just assumed they played it for him, and he said, "Oh, okay, I'll do that." But he showed up early to a session, and nobody was there yet. And the engineer just said, "Yeah." The engineer just said, "Oh, here, I'll play while we're waiting here. I'll play your scratch." And of course, he's like, scratch? I didn't do a scratch. And he's like, no, I've got it right here. And he goes, play that. So he plays the video, for the Olympics, and I'm doing this, Visa, proud partner of the NFL for 25 years, and the only card they accept at the Olympics, and he just kind of looked and said, interesting. Well, the clients show up, and he didn't say anything, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, we'll do this, and the engineer goes, oh, I already played him the scratch. And they all looked at each other with panic, and they said, "What? You did what?" and he goes, and Morgan apparently goes, "Yeah, play that again." And the guy played it, and they get to the end, and he goes, "Well, hell, why don't you just use him?" And he wasn't being mad or anything.
No.
He according to the guy, he said, no, he was just genuinely baffled. He's like, well, that guy just sounds great. Just use him. I'm like,
That's
well,
so funny.
that guy's getting $500. You're getting $1 million. So.
Well, once in a while people pay me to sound like Morgan Freeman, but it's not, I'm not in danger, I don't think, because I never say I'm Morgan Freeman.
Well, yeah, but that's a misconception a lot of people have, is that legally you're fairly well protected. And where that came from, actually, interesting, it was Katharine Hepburn back in, oh my God, the 50s maybe. I was told it was like Firestone or Goodyear did a radio spot, and they thought it'd be funny to have Katharine Hepburn, and she didn't that, didn't do commercials, and Oscar-winning actresses don't do tire commercials, and so it became a big deal, and they're like, well, but that's where that lawsuit was, where the celebrity voice impersonated came from.
Oh.
Because the lawyer said if you tack that on, then you're safe. Then they can't sue you. But my problem was, and what the lawyer I talked to said, they said, oh yeah, you'll win the lawsuit, but you'll spend $100,000 to defend the lawsuit.
And hopefully
he has $100,000 to blow on a lawsuit. You probably don't want to fritter away $100,000. Like, you're absolutely right.
You could vacuum his couch and get $100,000 in change, probably. But
that's why I only do things for him, for his projects, trailers for his movies. I have occasionally done pitches for clients that want to hire him, but they want to play the client. They want to play the client a rough cut of a spot with what the client thinks is Morgan Freeman already in it. So I've helped. As I said to his manager one time, or his agent rather, William Morris, I think it was. Some guy down in Florida or someplace was selling himself as Morgan Freeman, and he actually was stupid enough to send out cards or emails saying, why spend $100,000 on Morgan Freeman when I can do it for nothing? And I'm like, oh God, you gotta be kidding me. What a moron. Well, sure enough, but they thought it was me. So I get a phone call from the legal department at William Morris, and I've done, no, I said, God, no, I would never do. No, that's not me. And they apparently they crawled up his backside with lawyers, and he doesn't do that anymore.
No,
but
I guess not.
So I'm just always like, is it really worth whatever you're making on that job to possibly get a lawyer letter from one of the most powerful agencies in Hollywood? I don't think so.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you, I know you get asked to do all your myriad of your voices, but I'd like to know what's the hardest character voice that you have had to do, whether it was either the hardest emotionally or it was the hardest on your voice, or what is the most difficult character voice you've ever had to do?
Well, none of them are terribly difficult for me because I'm really lazy. And if it's something that I can't, I kind of, if someone will say, do this character and make it sound like whatever. If I can't do it pretty much out the gate, or at least enough so that I can see that, I can work on this a little bit and get what they want. That I just don't, I'm just going, I tried it. It doesn't sound so great. I'm sure you're going to find someone better. So when I do jobs, it's jobs I already know I can do, because I only take the ones they're
all easy for you.
Well, no, but the only ones you hear are easy. The ones you don't hear are the ones that weren't easy. So I don't do them.
Well, then what's your favorite?
Well, I will answer though. I will tell you. Well, the favorite is Yoda because I'm a complete Star Wars nerd. I also am Ackbar, and so that's fun because he was always one of my favorites.
The forest moon of Endor will be enraged with all power to the forward shields. It's a trap.
It's a trap. I'm going to be saying that because I heard that earlier. I'm going to be saying that in my sleep tonight. My wife is going to wake up hearing, "It's a trap."
Yeah. But the hardest session I think I did involving character voices, without question, hands down, was when the first Star Trek movie, the new one, the reboot, came out with Chris Pine and Zach Quinto and stuff. I got booked to do toys, to do spots for Burger King, where for Star Trek. That's what I thought it was. Then I get to the session and I find out, well, no, I'm not doing the commercial. They want me to record the actual voices in these little talking toys in character. So I'm like, oh, well, apparently they'd found out that I'd done Star Trek games and I could do several of the characters fairly well. But I didn't know any of this. So I show up, I didn't show up. It was from my home studio. But what was supposed to be an hour session ended up 6 hours. And they had me doing not the new characters, which I thought it would be. I'm like, well, I don't think I do a good Chris Pine. No, they wanted the originals. Shatner, Nimoy, DeForest Kelley, Ewan, which again makes no sense to me. It's a reboot with new actors, but they're going to do toys. I'm like, okay, so now it gets even more ridiculous. These aren't running in the United States. These toys are not available in the United States.
Oh.
These toys are available in 6 other countries, and they want them in the languages of those countries. So suddenly, a guy who speaks none of these, I'm supposed to do Captain Kirk in German and French.
Seriously?
And Castilian Spanish, yes, and because I can do a fairly decent Spock, so I ended up doing Kirk, Spock, Dr. McCoy, and Scotty.
I gotta ask you. You have to give me a little Spock.
Well, the one I remember is if you were trying to do Bill Shatner saying "Scotty, beam me up" in German, it sounds like "Scotty, beam mir hoch." And that's about the closest anything English. I mean, some of the stuff was just incomprehensible to me.
That's awesome.
My immediate reaction, I don't like speak this, that, or what. And so now it gets even sillier. They have people coming in and out of the phone patch, the conference call, from other countries to give me line readings in whatever the language. So there's some guy calls from Italy and says, here's how you say this. And I'm like, wait, so I'm trying to do Spock in Spanish. and it was horrible. I mean, it was just god awful. But the Kirk was the worst. That was the one they were most concerned about. They really wanted, for obvious reasons, they wanted Captain Kirk to be as close to Shatner as possible. And I'm like, guys, what makes Shatner is his just bizarre speech patterns, and you can't replicate those in a language where the verbs are in the different spots and the nouns in the different spot and the adjectives are in a different spot. And I said, someone might be able to do that, but not. I don't think I can do it. They're like, well, we have to do it. And the moment I had flop sweat, and the moment I really felt like crying was when the guy from France calls to try to walk me through doing Captain Kirk in French. And I'm trying to, because imagine, I'm reading words that I don't know. Is that a verb? Is that a noun? I don't know. So I don't know where to put the emphasis, and the guy, maybe the guy was French, some of those stereotypes are true. He just was getting really pissy.
Oh,
no, that is not correct. Because I told you 3 times. You say it like this. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't say it like that and make it sound like William Shatner. And I finally just said, I'm sorry. I said, guys, I'm done. You have to pick right now do you want it to sound like Bill Shatner doing bad French, or do you want good French but no one knows it's Captain Kirk? Because pick one: good Captain Kirk, bad French, or good French, bad Captain Kirk.
And that was 6.5 hours.
6.5 hours.
I don't know if I don't even know if my longest sessions have been like an hour, and when I'm doing a character voice, when I get done, I'm like,
oh no, it's well, yeah, I don't have those pipes. Some of the trailer guys, they're all former FM jocks, and they have they all smoke like locomotives, and they have cords of chromium alloy. I don't. So yeah, by the end of it, I was definitely getting but at that point I didn't care. Honestly, I was just ready to go, you know what, just go away.
Well,
it was just ridiculous. But
seriously, I'm glad to know that there's going to be 150 or so of us at the camp, and we've all had our little worst experience in the booth, and to hear something like that is, that's okay, that's good. Well,
imagine going, Captain, I find your course of action highly illogical, except it's Mon Capitaine. Il semble illogique. I'm like, okay, who the hell is that?
I could watch that. I'd watch that.
I'd love to have had a video of the session. Anyway.
Jeez. Well, listen, there's going to be 150 of us at this camp, and just to remind everybody, it's April 30th through May 3rd in Livingston, Texas. You can go to castvoices.com and click on the link and get your tickets now, because Tom Kane, the voice of Yoda and about 100 other famous things, he's going to be there as our keynote speaker, and it is going to be amazing.
Well, thank you. It'll be fun. I'm very much looking forward to it. Get out of my cave and meet some real humans.
I told Scott Parkin and some others are going to be there, and I told them, I said, I'm just going to be sitting at the table across from me going like this.
I'll tell you a story about Scott when we're not recording.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead, and I think we'll end this now. And I want to thank you. Don't hang up. I'm going to be with you, but I want to thank you so much for your time. And it's going to be so fun. And I can't wait for the whole thing. Thank you so much.
You got it. My pleasure. If anything else you need, give me a holler. We'll get it taken care of.
Great. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, man.
Hey, you guys, I can't wait to get back to Texas and see everybody at CampVO. It's going to be an incredibly great time with a lot of your friends and a lot of great opportunities to learn stuff. Plus, there might be drinking.